Jack Smith, a psychological analysis.
Mr. Reagan.
So yesterday, Jack Smith announced that Donald Trump was being indicted for the third time in an attempt by Democrats to stop Trump from running for president. And as I'm watching the news unfold yesterday, the news of America stepping 1 foot deeper into the abyss, I noticed something interesting. I'd never really watched Jack Smith speak before, and when I finally did, a few things about this guy became very apparent. This guy is a total nerd. And you might not think that that's a big deal, but I think it very much is. I will explain in one moment. First, I have to sell you something. The US dollar has lost 85% of its value since the 1970s when the dollar decoupled from gold, and the government seems bent on continuing this tradition. From now until after the next election, the government can print as much money as they want. The last time they did that, inflation went up 9%. This means one thing: the security of your future and your family's future is all in your hands. Make sure you freeze the value of the wealth that you're currently holding. Invest in gold with Noble Gold Investments. Gold is one asset that is proven to withstand recession, inflation, and just about all economic threats. Noble Gold Investments is here to help you if you want to invest in gold. You also get a 24-karat 1/4 ounce gold standard coin for free. Go to noblegoldinvestments.com right now, noblegoldinvestments.com, the only gold company that I trust. All right, so let's watch this Jack Smith video, or at least a piece of it, and I'll break down why I think this guy's a total nerd, and I will explain why this is so important.
Special Counsel Jack Smith speaking to reporters about this indictment.
Good evening. Today, an indictment was unsealed, charging Donald J. Trump with conspiring to defraud the United States, conspiring to disenfranchise voters, and conspiring and attempting to obstruct an official proceeding. The indictment was issued by a grand jury of citizens here in the District of Columbia, and it sets forth the crimes charged in detail. I encourage everyone to read it in full. The attack on our nation's capital on January 6, 2021, was an unprecedented assault on the seat of American democracy. As described in the indictment, it was fueled by lies. Lies by the defendant targeted at obstructing a bedrock function of the U.S. government, the nation's process of collecting, counting, and certifying the results of the presidential election. The men and women of law enforcement who defended the U.S. Capitol on January 6th are heroes. They are patriots, and they are the very best of us. They did not just defend a building or the people sheltering in it. They put their lives on the line to defend who we are as a country and as a people. They defended the very institutions and principles that define the United States. Since the attack on our Capitol, the Department of Justice has remained committed to ensuring accountability for those criminally responsible for what happened that day. This case is brought consistent with that commitment, and our investigation of other individuals continues. In this case, my office will seek a speedy trial so that our evidence can be tested in court and judged by a jury of citizens. In the meantime, I must emphasize that the indictment is only an allegation and that the defendant must be presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law. I would like to thank the members of the Federal Bureau of Investigation who are working on this investigation with my office, as well as the many career prosecutors and law enforcement agents from around the country who have worked on previous January 6th investigations. These women and men are public servants of the very highest order, and it is a privilege to work alongside them. Thank you.
All right, so the first thing I notice about this guy is the stuff he's doing right. There is a certain seriousness with which he is speaking. His delivery is relatively dry and neutral. This is fine. This is normal. This is how a serious person in a serious job dealing with a serious issue should express himself in such a press conference. But notice that there is a very slight stylistic flair to the way he delivers these statements.
Charging Donald J. Trump with conspiring to defraud the United States.
It's almost like a kind of swagger, but it's not actually cool. It's like he's mimicking how he thinks somebody cool might speak. In acting, it's often better to play a character with an inner struggle as opposed to an on-the-nose caricature. For instance, if you want to portray somebody who is sad, maybe somebody died, something like that, you don't want to just have them bawling on camera. That doesn't come across as authentic. You can do that. If you're good at fake crying, you can do that. But it's better to play somebody, fighting back tears and, maybe looking away and trying not to cry. They're putting on a brave face. That's often much more compelling because that's what most people really do in real life. And in the same way, if you want to play a nerd, you usually don't want to play a socially awkward person with zero self-awareness, confidently expressing his nerdiness.
Oh, I thought it was Stella Purdy. You mean to call you Stella, yes? How stupid of me. I'm sorry. All right, I will, stupid. Stella, I'm very upset.
That doesn't play. Why doesn't that play? Because people don't really do that in real life. Real nerds aren't like that. No, you want to play a somewhat awkward guy who's trying to be cool and failing. This is exactly what Christopher Reeves did when he played Clark Kent in the original Superman movie.
Can I take you to the airport?
Not unless you can fly. Clark.
Hmm?
Ladies.
Sorry.
Change my clothes, thank you.
Well, hey, Lois, maybe we can...
And that performance was absolutely brilliant. Why? Because it's true to life. That's how nerds really are in real life. And that's exactly how Jack Smith seems to me in this press conference. Now, Jack Smith is an old man. He's in his 50s. He's probably outgrown most of his youthful awkwardness. But you can still see that desperate attempt to try to be cool. And it made me laugh a little bit. It made me cringe a little bit. It's just like, how sad, right? How pathetic. What an absolute loser. He's not a good-looking guy, okay? Fair enough. He's tall, he's lanky, he's awkward, he's got messed up teeth, and yet he's trying very, very desperately to speak with this kind of cool guy swagger. And as he's walking out of the press conference, it occurred to me that he reminds me of another tall, lanky, awkward, dorky guy, Beto O'Rourke. Beto O'Rourke was another tall, lanky nerd who desperately tried to seem cool. And you know what? I think this is actually common for white male Democrats. There's no real reason for a white male to be a Democrat. The Democrat Party is very openly bigoted against straight white men. So if you're a straight white guy and you are a Democrat, there's something wrong with you, right? These kind of guys, they got a chip on their shoulder. They're guys with something to prove. And, they're still desperately trying to be accepted by the cool kids. And that is why this is all so important. Jack Smith has been noted as being an overly aggressive prosecutor, somebody who seems to intentionally misinterpret the law in order to over-prosecute his targets.
Jack Smith is the prosecutor who will try to go after any possible thing. And frankly, he's somewhat of a lunatic. We saw this with how he went after Bob McDonnell, the former governor of Virginia, and that case had to be thrown out. At the end of the day, the reason why Merrick Garland chose Jack Smith is because Jack Smith will do anything, and I mean anything, to try to get a conviction.
And, this makes perfect sense. A nerd with something to prove, he needs big, high-profile wins. And I think Jack Smith, this is the kind of guy who deep down, he knows he's a nerd. And so he avoids the cameras, he avoids the microphones. He just goes and he does these kind of press conferences when he absolutely has to. But for the most part, he avoids it because he doesn't want to be exposed. He doesn't want to be exposed as the nerd that he is. But nevertheless, he's desperate to be liked. He's desperate to be respected. And he is desperate to be accepted by the cool kids who rejected him back in school. But how can he do that? How can he do that if he's still an awkward nerd? Well, he can be so great at his job, so great that it would be impossible not to notice. The problem, of course, is that he's not that good at his job. He's just very aggressive. It's like a professional basketball player who's not particularly good at shooting or passing, but he elbows everybody in the face. And so he occasionally gets a win. But he's not actually a great player. He's just overly aggressive. That's Jack Smith. He's an insecure loser trying to impress the cool kids. And the Democrats and the deep state puppet masters have identified Jack Smith as the nerdy loser that they need to go after Trump. Jack Smith, a needy dweeb, will do anything to be respected. And so they throw him this big case, and maybe they sit down with him for a quick conversation and they convey exactly what's expected of him. And he goes to work, not to bring justice, but to make a name for himself, to get into the history books, to finally be accepted by the cool kids, maybe even to become famous. And so, of course, this indictment is totally bogus, but it doesn't matter. The deep state gets to sideline Trump, and Jack Smith gets to finally be popular. According to this absurd indictment, it is now illegal to question an election. You cannot question the integrity of an election. If a Democrat wins, oh, no, you're not allowed to question it. Otherwise, you go to prison. And obviously this is BS. Obviously this is unconstitutional. And so, of course, there is massive outrage that is shot right through the conservative diaspora like a bolt of lightning. And so it should be. This indictment, like the documents case and the crazy lady in the Bergdorf Goodman dressing room, is absurd. It's so absurd that it kind of makes you want to laugh. But you can't laugh because, as I said, this is very dangerous. The Democrats' resistance to the temptation to imprison political opponents is about the only thing left that's distinguishing them from Putin and Castro. Once they cross that line, their journey to the dark side will be complete. They'll have gone full dictator, and there is no coming back from that. Not for the Democrats, not for America. Once they go full dictator, they will have become so obviously corrupt that if they ever lose power, there is the real possibility of dire consequences. And so they have to avoid those consequences. And so they have to become even more authoritarian and more corrupt and on until we are a fully controlled totalitarian state. And yet they seem to be charging full steam ahead right off that cliff. And if the Democrats do pull this off, if they prevent Trump from becoming president and they retain power in 2024, America is screwed. We will officially be living in a fully controlled totalitarian oligarchy run by the deep state. And to be honest, it seems like they're already that desperate. It seems like they know that if they get caught for the corruption that they've already engaged in, even at this stage, they risk dire consequences. That's why Trump can never win. And so we're already further down the road to totalitarianism than we think. And Jack Smith is their latest attack dog that they've unleashed in order to stay in power. And as I think I've illustrated here, Jack Smith is the worst kind of pathetic loser. He's a clout chaser. But he's not a college girl trying to gain clout by dating rich dudes so that they can get, cool Instagram pics in a private jet. No. He's a grown man. And he works in a profession with a lot of power. And instead of pretending to find the rich guy cute, he's pretending to find the rich guy guilty. The college girl clout chaser, she trades her dignity to become Instagram famous. Jack Smith has sold his soul to finally be accepted by the cool kids. Okay, well, that's it for me. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. And remember, it's not that liberal friends are ignorant. It's just that they're totally corrupt. Good night.
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. And this idea that government is beholden to the people, that it has no other source of power except the sovereign people, is still the newest and the most unique idea in all the long history of man's relation to man.